Now, it's my privilege to introduce Dr. Solomon. He's a scientist, he's a geologist, he's an inventor, and a genius. And I'm sure you'll be interested in hearing what he has to say and some of his incredible work.
I have the privilege in the early years working with Ed Skilling, and he's the real genius in this field. You mentioned chemtrails, and the instruments we are going to talk about was taking care of it in about one day. About 4 weeks ago, everybody got sick on me, and their blood had great big white splotches as we do the dry blood on them, and great big spokes coming out of them. And it was taking 5 to 6 days with the instruments to get them over it. In fact, I got it, and I thought I was about to die. My blood a week before had been completely normal. And I looked like I was dying of cancer when I did a blood test on myself. It's kind of a vicious thing that they're doing. There's about 1,000 pages online on chemtrails and what they're doing to us. In our lab, we were able to check to see what would take care of these. We came up that the Photon Genie, which will take care of 95% of these, because one of my friends is the last surviving member of his group. They gave everybody in his group anthrax. He's the last survivor, and the reason he survived is because of this type of instrument here. And what I'm trying to say is you can survive if you wish. This is one way you can do it, but I found that the instrument is very effective in getting rid of these mutating bacteria and viruses and things like that. In my clinics, in the clinics I work with in Buffalo, New York, Canada, Massachusetts, and California, that we're all getting the same thing, and the people are getting very sick. Now, what we've developed, and I thank the Lord for Ed Skilling every day, is we have a way in what we call a new Photon Genie, which what we did is we've combined an instrument to accomplish what we're accomplishing now, where we're charging about $5,000. And we were able to combine this instrument, thanks to Ed's genius, into all 4 instruments into one instrument. What it's doing, it regenerates. Thanks to Valerie Hunt, some of you know of her. She called Ed Skilling one day and said, I found a frequency that regenerates everything in the body. And so we incorporated it. But we not only incorporated it, we put it in where it sweeps in the body 3,000 times. It hits every known healing frequency in the body. And we've been getting fantastic results with it. We've been regrowing kidneys, livers, spleens, bones, breaks. People who come in with a break to my office, we'll put it on there 3 or 4 times in a week. They've got their cast off. The doctor doesn't believe it, that it's healed, and it's doing it that fast. And I had one patient that he took out 85% of her liver. She had cancer. Within 2 weeks, we had the cancer in what I call in arrears or spontaneous remission. And in 4 weeks, we had 90% of her liver regrown. We've had some fantastic things happen. We've been successful in about 80% of the people that come to me. There's another 20%. I don't care what I do, I can't help them. But we've been getting some fantastic results. Also with this, in the clinic that I'm associated with in Massachusetts, he only takes spinal cases. And he's been getting feeling back into their bodies, and about 40% of them are moving. What we've developed is a system using the Genie, which is non-toxic, non-invasive, and it's easy to use. We have found that we can regenerate the nerves with this instrument. We've been getting the nerves to regrow and bind. As you know, everything in the body is electrical. They used to think that the nerve energy between was chemicals. Now they found out it's electrical. And what we've done is we've been able, like MS patients, I have a little girl that came into me. She couldn't walk. She was 19. She was one of the princesses of the Hawaiian Queen, and she just couldn't walk. She was getting bad. So what we did is we put her on the instrument, and within 6 weeks we had her up walking. That's just some of the things that are happening. But we don't call them cures, because the Lord cures and the MDs cure, but we don't, okay? We put it into remission, where you have a change. That doesn't mean it can't come back on you. I've had people that I've gotten over tumors, and they went back to their old nasty habits and their old mental strains, and they're using NutraSweet and aspartame and all the things that aren't good for you, and they get it back. As most of you probably should know, chemo, the standard treatment in cancer patients, and radiation both grow and stimulate the growth of cancer. Chemo will slow it down slightly, and then it comes back. And it's been admitted now in the medical profession that they've lost the war on cancer, but they're looking in the wrong place. If they can't get to something that's chemical or a drug that they can patent and sell to you, they won't do it. They won't look at electronic medicine. And the whole body is electric. Every disease is electric. This instrument also generates ozone, which is very healthy. And we have 2 tubes, and I'm going to let Warren, who a year ago was a patient of mine, and he got hung up on this, and he's now been working with Ed Skilling about every other day. Let me turn a few minutes over to Warren here, and let me give you his experiences so you don't get it just from me. In fact, he became a convert.
Thanks, Jim. I want to personally welcome all of you to this conference. I think that all of the people that do come to this conference have a lot in common. And as Jim has said, it's nice to be with people of like mind and like spirit. I think there's another quality that applies to probably all of us, and it reminds me of about a little story I heard about a mama skunk and there are 2 little baby skunks. Well, she had these 2 little baby skunks, and she named one of them out, and she named one of them in. Well, one day, In got out, and she called out In and said, "Out, In is out, and I want you to go out and find In and bring In in." So he hops off down the trail, and she thought this would be a while, and a few minutes later, she looks out, and they're both hopping, bounding down the trail back home. Well, later, she called out over, and she said, "Al, how did you go out and find In, bring In so fast?" He said, "Well, instinct." I think that we all have good instincts, good intuition, and it's a compliment to us all to be here. I think one of the things we should all do is meet as many people here as you can, not just at the booths to find out about products, etc., but to meet good people on the same team. I went to Dr. Solomon. A few months before meeting Dr. Solomon, I had found 2 tumors on the back of my neck, and I had been treated chiropractically for about 1.5 years thinking my neck was out of adjustment. And it was quite a traumatic surprise to me to find that it was not a vertebra out of line, but I had a couple of real hot tumors. I went to Mexico, to Tijuana, and I was in clinics for 2 months doing drips every day and giving myself shots every day. Nothing seemed to be happening, and so I had heard about Dr. Solomon from some other doctors in other parts of the world. I went to see him because of the great testimony that he had of really getting results, getting rid of bad things. So when I met Dr. Solomon, he did my blood work, and I had white rotten ass areas in the dried view of my blood, and it didn't look real good. It didn't look like I was terminal, but I was afraid enough to be terminal. And I said, "Well, what can we do about it?" He said, "Oh, don't worry about it. We can get rid of those." And he was so nonchalant, I thought, "Oh, brother, I'm not too sure about this." So he takes me over, and he sits me down in this lazy boy recliner and gives me these tubes to hold. And so I hold these tubes, and at that point, they had a predecessor to this, and I had this one pack on me. And I'm sitting there holding these tubes, and they're going, "Meh, meh." And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know about this. I mean, you know, these things are on my neck. They're real, they're hot, they're hurt, and I'm holding a couple of pretty tubes that are going on and on. I said, I don't get it. I was spending $4,000 or $5,000 a month in Mexico, and it wasn't seeming to work. So I said, well, I'll give this a shot. I came back 2 or 3 days later. He did an analysis of my blood. It didn't look good. I was really fried, degenerated, worn out. And of course, by 2 or 3 in the afternoon every day, I really felt like it. I used to have energy all the time, never get tired, didn't need to sleep much, whatever. Now it's just the opposite. I came back 2 or 3 days later. I did the instrument again, and every time I'd ask him, well, what are we going to do about this? He says, don't worry about it, they'll go away. And I'm thinking, man, it's easy for you to say, but these hurt, and they're still there. The day after my 4th treatment, which went on for about 1.5 weeks, I was sitting in an office talking to some gentlemen, guy behind the desk, someone to my right, someone to my left, and the guy to my right said something kind of off the wall, and I turned to respond to him, turned back to the guy across the desk, and I realized as I was talking, I just turned further to the right than I'd been able to do for a couple of years. And I didn't feel anything. So while I'm talking, I'm reaching back here, you know, checking and talking, and they weren't there. I like to have died. It was all I could do to get through this meeting and get out of there. I drove straight to his office. I said, I want one right now. I'm going to do this every day.